Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, David. Happy New Year, Abhi.
Happy New Year.
Happy New
David,
Year.
David is all orange and Abhi is all, what is that? Black, blue, gray? What sweater is that? That's your favorite sweater.
Yeah, that's my rock star wardrobe. I don't know.
That's lovely.
Yeah. Just for Zoom.
And David is a forever rock star. So even if he comes with a t-shirt, he's
Yeah.
looking like a star.
That's naturally. I'm just trying to be you
We're
know,
just trying to catch up with him.
yeah, totally.
Terrific. Okay, excellent. So today's topic, we've heard a lot of messages on LinkedIn come to us about marketing ops and what is the future of marketing ops? What are we seeing in 2025? Abhi, I'm going to start with you first. I know there is a big push. You have been talking about it. A lot of our advisors and executives have been talking about the move to GTM and go to market as opposed to marketing alone. So, marketing as a function is not going to go away. Marketing ops may not go away. But if you look at GTM coming in place and marketing ops, let's first set the stage. There are about, according to LinkedIn and according to the data from the Marketing Ops Institute, there are roughly about 800,000 people working in marketing ops functions. Not all of them have the title of marketing ops, but they have the marketing ops role. And they have a lot of responsibilities. So let's start with you first. Uh, Talk to us about your view as to why you think GTM is going to be the way to go, or where does the role of marketing ops change? And David, after that, why don't you talk about the fact that you've actually done this marketing ops role and where do you see that going? Let's start with you, Abhi.
Yeah, no. This is the question everyone's is kind of wondering. But let's just take a step back on what really has happened. So, almost about a decade back is when we started hearing the word marketing automation, right? And that's when like HubSpot pioneered the whole inbound marketing, and people thought, well, marketing is going to get really automated. And that led to this whole thing about, that system and data and techniques, whether it's inbound or a system like marketing automation, the whole, pieces around how you put tags and how you put, synchronicity between system really started to happen. And that led to this whole evolution of iPaaS, and people started connecting their CRM and marketing automation, more or less. That led really creation of this role called marketing ops, and it was primarily about all things about system, but then all things about data, and just making sure that the lists are like ready for the campaigns, and then system really fire away as they should be, and then there is a little bit of reporting and attribution and all those things. The executive get a sense of what's really marketing is really working on. But what has happened now is all those marketing ops people are really, really overworked. And that's what we're seeing.
Yeah,
And there's
too much to do.
too much to do, too much fire drills, too much to plug one thing here, the other thing here. And because there's only limited thing marketing can do, right? Marketing is basically operationalizing a strategy. And then it's not just about system or data or throwing more bodies in marketing ops and things like that. It goes back to the challenge of like, what is the company trying to do? Or where is the company real ICP is or persona is? Or what is the audience they're trying to reach out to? Because otherwise, how would you do lead scoring in one way and then sales keeps rejecting that, and keep something is everyone, there's no alignment between marketing and sale. So that led to this whole emergence that look, it's not just the strategy element, it's not just the sales element, because sales decide the account, marketing aside the leads, and then there is a strategic element. How do we put all this together and call this as like GTM tech stack, which is my CRM, my marketing automation, my customer success platform? They all have syncing together, and we're like sharing the data set. And there's a right handoff to the customer as they're
And the
entering.
data platform as well,
Yeah,
right? And the
all
data
of it. I
platform
mean,
as well.
totally. I mean, we in my last live, right? We try to solve this with the whole data warehouse approach in CDP as a category emerged, and started doing that. But what is really happening is, this GTM team cannot afford any middle management, any data operations team. They want, like, you started to hear this word now, right? GTM engineer. Like, and it's primarily because of this, how you basically make all your data work together for you, all the system kind of work together for you. And this led to this whole emergence of like GTM tech stack, and which is not entirely marketing, but not entirely sale, but it basically the entire unified funnel where you can see who's coming on my side. Am I focusing in the right ICP, doing the right ICP marketing? Because my ICP also keeps evolving as the company GTM strategy keeps evolving. So all of that things, kind of leading up to kind of take a relook to the whole tech stack. So I'll take a pause and see what do you guys think.
David, let's switch to you. And the question to you is, you've played marketing ops roles, you've played sales ops roles, you've played, or you're playing now GTM role as well. How have you seen the marketing ops role evolve? Let's start with that.
Well, when I first started my tech career, I remember very distinctly like our de facto sort of MOPS guy um, was more or less an operator of a single system. So sort of speaking to like what Avi was talking about before. And he was more or less assigned to like Marketo, so the marketing automation platform, right? And he was like a list wrangler. And yeah, he had like boatloads of work within one system. And the guy was there early in the morning until late at night. But still, it was more or less siloed to one platform. And then what I've seen the how like things have evolved, it's gone from single platform to multi-platform. So
Or stack, as we call it now.
yeah, so the complexities have grown enormously, and so have the requirements and the skill sets. Um, so yeah, the role of marketing has expanded like the role of marketing operations has expanded. So sort of as marketing has taken on more of the stack, the GTM stack, so to speak, so
Or,
so is MOPS.
or let's just say more of the blame.
On one axis, I'm going to draw, let's start with three axes and we may get more complex. But on one axis, what you have both told us is that the complexity of the stack has become a lot more. It used to be Marketo or one specific system, and now it's a series of systems. That's one complexity dimension or axis. The second dimension Abhi had mentioned was previously your responsibility was to automate and because of the first axis, it's also the data that is involved with all of those. The second, and of course, data means data complexity and also data junk, right? A lot of data that we get from all of these systems is not great data. The second dimension of complexity comes from the responsibility of what the marketing team has to do. It used to be previously, we are responsible for awareness, and they moved from awareness to MQL. But Abhi, no longer are marketing people being asked by the CEO and by the revenue and the GTM teams to stop at MQL. They're literally being told, listen, you're responsible for revenue, you're responsible for converted accounts or new logo acquisition. Have some of the North Star metric has been new logo acquisition. Some of the North Star metric has been logo acquisition. Some of the North Star metric has been retention. The it is either acquisition or retention metric, right? So that's the second layer of complexity. Let's go through that. Let's start with Abhi first, right? And then David. That second, and of course, the third axis, we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But the second layer of complexity is this, okay, what are you responsible for? Previously, it was a smaller set of things. Now it is like, take me all the way to the end goal. How does that change the marketing ops role?
Yeah. So I'm just playing back the question. So what has actually changed for marketing from just from MQL to all the way to kind of, the whole pipeline as a metrics, better conversion, the quality of leads, and making sure that we're marketing to the right accounts and right ICP and right personas, all throughout. So it's more on conversion, more on what actually revenue than just about creating leads, and then whole thing. And I think that's a really, really positive move, and more marketer team and a lot of marketing team I've been kind of privileged to work with have embraced that full hand. They're like, hey, we're all in. We're gonna hit this number. We're gonna get this marketing conversion happening. We shouldn't get the wrong opportunities. We shouldn't find that sales is identifying those opportunities that are wrong. Like, we should make it robust enough process that we don't have this downstream problem, eventually. And the fact is, that they've done a ton. If you see the maturity of any data operation in a company, in the GTM organization, is largely marketing led. And that's why we have, even before sales ops and rev ops and all these things, it was actually the most mature data operation was happening towards the marketing ops. And I'd work with public companies, smaller companies, very high growth companies, and over and over I've seen like how marketing ops leader have become the next CMO. They were like highly, like they were like right brain creative guys, but like super left brain, very intensive data operation oriented. And I've seen them kind of really being very surgical in the weed of data quality is ensured, so they don't just do spray and pray marketing, which never worked even past, never works even now, and it just boomerangs. So I think it is, at least, I've seen that all happening, at least with some of these mature companies I work with. Now it has gone rampant because, now we're in an AI era where everyone is kind of spraying and praying all the time. Everyone is indoctrinated. The buyers, this is a buyer's market. This is not a seller's market. Buyer will actually gonna choose who they want to even talk to, and if it all talk to at all or not. Like, I was reading a report, like there are people buying software without talking to anyone. They don't want to talk to anyone. They want to just test it out, few things, and make a decision. So more and more, this audience picking, or what we call ICP picking, has become so critical, and people totally underestimate. And everyone understand that, but I think if you look at the market, we try to oversimplify. We say, oh, okay, interesting, you want ICP? I mean, look at the Zoom info, look at all these data vendors, they'll help you identify ICP. Well, sure, they have all the data you can think of, people in company, but how do I match those right people? How do I even identify the potential persona? Like, I've been in rooms with these marketing teams and clients and others where people have said, look, wait, we thought most of our buyers are marketing team, but actually now that we're seeing data, they're actually finance people. They are the one who is actually championing us to optimize this. So like, these kind of conversations happening, and the moment you start seeing this, all your sort of confirmation bias that, oh, I build the software for this user. Well, the user is different, buyer is different, right? And every organization is different. Sometimes it could be, user-led. Sometimes it is for optimization. Maybe it's a buyer-led situation. So all this complexity cannot be just done by like one yardstick, one size fit all database, or one size fit all list. How do I kind of individualize this for my business, my marketing goal, and my ICP, is all where you'll see a lot of complexity start emerging. And if you able to go across here, you're winning. And that's how we're seeing some of the teams are really crushing it, like really working out pretty well. And they're trying to build some of these kind of bespoke solution by just using, there are enough tools, there are enough technology. I think it's just putting them all together in the right perspective is where we used to call like the really decision intelligence lies, right? Where Do I take a decision? Like, is this my ICP? So that's how I think.
David, talk to us about the second level of complexity. First level of complexity, we talked about multiple different systems. You mentioned as an example. The second level of complexity has also been responsibility for metrics, right? Previously, it was, just take the MQL, get an MQL, get me a bunch of leads that I can talk to. But now it's a lot more. Where do you see marketing ops people having to change their role, change their perspective? What is it that they have to learn? What do you think that they have to be able to focus on? I mean, previously they can control the leads, but now it's not as easy anymore, is it?
No. So yeah, the way I see it sort of progressing and changing is like, again, the expansion of the role. So it became somewhat normal for mops to do a lot of this like routing work, data routing work between systems. Like just think about like a lead prioritization flow or enrichment flow. You're already talking about a bunch of different systems. And so, that kind of became table stakes. And now what I'm seeing is like you've got some guys that we've met recently that are literally setting up data warehouses, writing code even, to wrangle these massive streams of data. Um, so that's kind of where I see it heading. It's just, again, the complexity is getting bigger and the sort of skills required are getting more complex and technical. Um, so that's
Yeah.
where solutions need to come around that sort of fit the user, so to speak, that aren't super difficult to learn, where their learning curves aren't super steep, but still provide sort of a broad palette for them to accomplish this broad set of things that they need to get done.
Yeah.
We got
And
about
just to double down on what he just mentioned a point, and I want to connect the dots with this. Some people think it's buzzword. I don't think it this way, is composability. I think composability is extremely critical for GTM tech, because your strategy is changing, your tech stack is changing. You don't know what's going to work, what's not going to work. Are you going up market, down market? A lot of things are fluid. And that's why I want to connect dots with what David just mentioned. If you have a warehouse first approach,
yeah.
you're not like relying on the CRM or a marketing automation or some data vendor where like a vendor lock-in is there. You actually control the destiny of your data in your control, and build your tech stack on this warehouse. And this is where, like, in my kind of Western interest, this is what we are, kind of cycling or sort of evangelizing in iCustomer, is making customer like, you should own your data, you should own your intelligence. Rest all these tools are composable tool. Use them, test them, change them, whatsoever. Your strategy should define what tech stack should come in. Not like you first buy the tech stack and then figuring out, how to operationalize my strategy. So,
Abhi, we talked about it maybe on Monday or Tuesday for about two. We were on a call together 2 hours after a 1 hour customer call. We talked about the three dimensions, right? Dimension number one, we said, was the audience is changing. And you had a interesting example. You said the crystal for you was, or the crystallization for you was the election. The second thing we talked about is alignment. We already talked about that, right? We said marketing teams are being forced to align with the revenue goals, with the customer acquisition goals, with the logo acquisition goals, not with just MQL goals. We talked about that. We talked about the data chaos. We just finished that discussion. Go back to the first one, right? With the first angle, which is audiences. You called it
yeah,
audiences. David calls it people or users or potential prospects. And
I see.
your ICP, some people call it, we got about 2 minutes. We don't have a lot of time. Summarize for me your thinking on what's changed with the audiences, and we go for 30 seconds to David and wrap it up.
Yeah. So I think what is really, and what I call this is like, and every marketer uses segmentation. When you have customer data, you segment. What I was referring to is, segmentation has failed. And our election is a classic example. Everyone puts to identity politics, segment people based on certain identity points, and it's not working. It's no longer working. You cannot bracket people anymore. You can, just like you cannot bracket accounts. You cannot bracket, set up people who all have dogs or who all have cats. It's becoming extremely individualized. Every individual is different. Every company is different. Every household is different and unique. And what matters to them at what time, that needs to be seen. And this is why I'm saying this is a buyer's market, that they're gonna drive. They're not gonna get fit into your mold, which you have created. That I'm gonna grow up. I have this confirmation bias. I'm gonna put Abhi in this segment of Indian American guys who loves technology. Who knows? Maybe I like car race. Also additionally, or I do ice hockey. So I think there's a lot of this confirmation bias which is now falling apart because we're in 2025 and it's not working out. So my only point there was, let's just focus on a broad set of audience, or let's call them as our, like some people say, total relevant market, if not TAM in B2B. And in B2C, when we go and deploy ad, we found them as an audience, and we pick a certain set of audience, which is broad, like age group, demographics, some of them. And then we start monitoring them somehow, and then start sharpening up our second order precision within that broad group, which in B2B, we call it like focus on the TRM or SAM, and then let's refine further your ICP. Nobody can go up to the whiteboard and start creating your ICP. Nobody can.
Yeah.
One, it's difficult. Second, it's dynamic. You need constant iteration, you need constant monitoring of signal. And that is really what is required, whether it's B2B marketing or B2C.
Right. We're at the minute. We're going to wrap it up. David, any last 15-second thoughts? That's all we have.
Well, just to piggyback on that, yeah, and you need to monitor a broad audience and you need to monitor them beyond sort of one data point, right? So I think right now what's really popular is intent, but that's more or less one data point, right? It's sort of what someone was interested in ingesting in terms of media consumption.
Perfect. Thank you, David. Thank you, Abhi. I will record this and wrap it up, but we will continue next week on a discussion about, I think, most